Leg weakness gets blamed on a lot of things. Age, inactivity, slowing down. Most people over 60 are told it's just part of getting older, so they accept it. They live with it. They try to walk more, stretch more, even drink more water. But nothing changes. But what if I told you that weak legs, shaky knees, cramps, loss of balance are not a normal part of aging at all? What if the real reason you feel less steady today than you did just 5 years ago has nothing to do with how old you are, and everything to do with a handful of nutrients your body has quietly been running out of, day after day, year after year? And what if I told you that fixing those missing links doesn't require a gym, a doctor's prescription, or even supplements, but just a few smart choices in your kitchen and a small shift in your daily routine? In today's video, I'm going to show you how hundreds of older adults, many who thought they were too far gone, regained leg strength, reduced their risk of falls, and began moving with confidence again. And they did it not with willpower, but with knowledge. Specifically, knowledge about 3 specific nutrients that quietly control your muscles, your balance, and even the way you walk. But I'm not going to tell you what those nutrients are yet, because that's not the most important part. The most important part is understanding why your body lost strength in the first place, and how to give it back what it needs before it's too late. I'm Dr. Charles. I've spent over 40 years in geriatric medicine, helping older adults like you protect their strength, mobility, and independence. I've seen what happens when good people are told that weakness is just part of aging. I've watched men and women who could once walk miles slowly lose the ability to step out of bed without grabbing onto a rail. But I've also seen something else, something more hopeful. I've seen those same people recover. I've seen tired legs walk steady again. I've seen trembling hands calm. I've seen the lights come back on in people's eyes when they realized that their bodies were never broken, they were just undernourished. That's what we're talking about today. Not shortcuts. Not pills. But real, scientific, food-first solutions that give your body what it needs to rebuild. Because despite what you've been told, your legs are not finished yet. Let me take you back to Evelyn. When I first met her, she was 78, barely 5 feet tall, but you could tell she had once been strong. That day, though, she looked small, not in size, but in spirit. Her hands gripped her son's arm so tightly it looked like she was bracing for a fall with every step. She shuffled, not because she wanted to, but because she was afraid of lifting her feet. She sat down in my office, exhausted just from the walk from the hallway. I asked her what was going on, and her voice trembled when she answered. "Doctor, I don't understand. I eat what I always ate. I try to move a little every day. But I'm getting weaker. I can't trust my legs anymore." Her son nodded beside her. "She used to be so active, doctor. She hasn't been out of the house in months. She won't even go out to the mailbox unless I'm with her." I looked Evelyn in the eyes and asked her about her mornings. "Did she eat breakfast?" "No," she said. "I don't feel hungry in the morning anymore. I usually just have a piece of toast around 10. I asked about vegetables, protein, milk, eggs, basic sources of nourishment for muscles. She shook her head slowly. "I eat cheese sometimes. Some crackers. Not much else." She wasn't eating poorly out of neglect. Like most people her age, she simply didn't know how drastically her body's needs had changed. She didn't realize that by skipping breakfast and avoiding sunlight, she was unintentionally starving her muscles and nerves. What Evelyn was experiencing wasn't uncommon. In fact, I'd say it's more typical than not. Most of my patients walk in with some version of her story. And nearly all of them think the problem is age. But age is just the setting, not the cause. Yes, our bodies change as we get older. But the decline people feel in their legs, losing confidence, strength, control, that's not inevitable. It's the result of something deeper and far more manageable. Over the years, I've studied hundreds of patients who came to me with leg weakness, nighttime cramps, numbness, or difficulty walking. The same patterns appeared again and again. But here's where it gets more complicated. These weren't people eating junk food. Many were eating 3 meals a day. But what they didn't realize was that after 60, the body's ability to absorb certain vitamins and minerals drops dramatically. And to make things worse, common medications, especially antacids, diuretics, and diabetes drugs, can quietly drain those nutrients even further. So even if you're eating what you think is enough, your body might not be receiving what it actually needs. That's when the symptoms begin, subtle at first. Your legs feel a little heavier. You're more tired climbing the stairs. You notice a tingling in your feet that wasn't there before. Maybe you stop walking as far, without realizing it's because your balance feels just a bit off. These are not just quirks of aging. These are warning signs. But there's a reason I'm telling you Evelyn's story. Because she didn't give up. And neither should you. After that first appointment, we came up with a plan. Not a complicated one. Not a list of pills. Just a few very specific, daily changes, starting with breakfast. I asked her to eat a real breakfast every morning, with a small portion of protein and something green. A boiled egg and sautéed spinach. Or plain yogurt with a sprinkle of pumpkin seeds. Just enough to send the signal to her muscles and nervous system, I'm giving you what you need. I also told her to go outside each morning for at least 10 minutes. Not a walk. Just sit on the porch. Let the soft sunlight touch her arms and face. That light, even filtered through morning haze, would begin restoring something inside her that no supplement could match. We also gently shifted her meals. Less processed bread. More whole foods, things she recognized from childhood but had forgotten. Sardines, a banana at night, fresh leafy greens a few times a week. These weren't magic foods. But they were nutrient-dense and easy to digest. And then we waited. Nothing happened the first week. That's normal. The body doesn't rebuild overnight. But by the third week, something changed. Evelyn told me she was standing up from her chair without needing the side table for balance. A few days later, she walked from the kitchen to the front door without holding onto the wall. By the 6th week, she returned for her checkup. This time, she walked in on her own. No son. No cane. Just Evelyn, standing taller, looking brighter, and smiling with a confidence I hadn't seen before. I thought I had to accept getting weaker, she said. But I was just missing a few small things. Now maybe you're watching this and thinking, I feel like Evelyn. Or maybe you're just starting to notice the signs. Your legs don't feel as strong. You wobble a little more on uneven ground. You hesitate before stepping into the bathtub. Those are your early warning signs. You don't have to wait until you fall to start addressing them. You might be wondering, if this is so common, why haven't more people heard about it? And the answer is frustrating but honest. Because nutrient deficiency doesn't show up on a basic checkup unless someone is looking for it. Because many older adults assume their fatigue, cramps, and balance problems are just normal. And because the medical system is often focused on treating symptoms with pills, rather than teaching people how to nourish the root cause. But that's not how I work. I don't want you managing decline, I want you reversing it. If you're still with me, it means you've recognized something in yourself, or in someone you care about. Maybe it's that moment when you hesitate to stand up without bracing your hand on the table. Maybe it's the twinge in your leg when you climb the stairs. Maybe it's the cramp that wakes you in the middle of the night and makes you question whether your body still listens to you. As a physician who has spent over 4 decades in geriatric medicine, I can tell you this, the body always listens. It's the signals we've forgotten how to hear. There are 3 key nutrients I kept seeing come up in blood tests, patient histories, and functional assessments. Not in a few cases. In the majority. And these were people who weren't malnourished by textbook standards. They were eating, often preparing meals, sometimes even taking general multivitamins. But they were still deficient. Not because they weren't trying, but because aging changes everything, how we absorb nutrients, how we store them, how we convert them into usable forms. It's not just what you eat. It's what your body can actually do with what you eat. The first of these missing nutrients is one I call the nerve protector. Without it, the signals that travel from your brain to your legs start to misfire. It's called vitamin B12. B12 is essential for maintaining the myelin sheath, a fatty protective layer that wraps around your nerves, much like the insulation on a wire. That sheath keeps your nerve signals fast, clean, and efficient. But when you lack B12, the sheath thins. The wiring begins to short-circuit. That's when you feel tingling in your feet, or numbness in your toes, or like your legs are reacting a second too late. What's particularly troubling about B12 deficiency is how easy it is to miss. Standard blood panels rarely catch it unless you specifically test for it. And the older you get, the harder it is to absorb, because your stomach produces less acid, which is needed to unlock B12 from food. If you're over 65, and especially if you've been on acid-blocking medications for heartburn or indigestion, your B12 levels are very likely lower than you think. And once those levels drop, symptoms can appear quickly: loss of balance, muscle twitching, that pins and needles feeling in your legs and feet. But the good news is this: B12 is easy to restore. Boiled eggs, plain yogurt, fish, and poultry are excellent sources. They're gentle on digestion, and when paired with leafy greens, they offer a nutrient profile your nervous system responds to quickly. I've had patients add just one B12-rich meal per day and feel their balance improve in under 3 weeks. It's not magic. It's physiology, getting your nerves back online. The second missing nutrient is something most people have heard of, but rarely think about beyond their bones. I call it the muscle switch. It's vitamin D. Vitamin D doesn't just help you absorb calcium for strong bones. It's also involved in muscle contraction, energy production, and even the way your brain coordinates movement. When you're low on vitamin D, your legs may feel heavy. Tasks like standing from a chair or stepping into the shower suddenly take more effort. You may even feel weaker in the afternoon than you do in the morning. The real issue is that vitamin D synthesis depends on sunlight. And as we age, our skin loses its efficiency in converting sunlight into usable vitamin D. Combine that with the fact that many older adults spend more time indoors and are often told to avoid sun exposure altogether, and it's easy to see why deficiency is so rampant. I can't count how many times I've tested vitamin D levels in older patients and found them barely above the minimum threshold. Some were so low they were considered clinically deficient, and yet no one had ever mentioned it to them. Here's something simple you can do starting tomorrow. Go outside in the morning, ideally before 9 a.m., and let soft sunlight touch your skin for about 10 minutes. Even that brief exposure can stimulate production of vitamin D, especially if you do it consistently. If sunlight isn't an option where you live, foods like salmon, sardines, and fortified milk can help restore your levels. The third piece of the puzzle is quieter, but just as critical. It's not a vitamin, but a mineral: magnesium. Magnesium acts as a conductor between your muscles and your nerves. It regulates muscle contraction and relaxation, helps prevent cramping, and supports the electrical activity that keeps your entire neuromuscular system in rhythm. Without it, your muscles misfire. You may experience twitching, nighttime cramps, or a deep, aching fatigue that doesn't go away with rest. Many of my patients suffering from leg cramps at night were simply low on magnesium. And in most cases, they didn't need pills. They needed a daily handful of pumpkin seeds, a serving of spinach at dinner, a banana before bed. That's all it took. So why are so many older adults low in magnesium? Again, it comes back to absorption and to medications. Diuretics used for blood pressure or heart conditions flush magnesium from your body. So does chronic stress. So does alcohol. And once levels fall, they don't rebound on their own. Now maybe you're thinking, Dr. Charles, I already eat eggs. I go outside sometimes. I even take a multivitamin. That's a great start. But timing, combinations, and frequency matter. You can't just check a box once and expect your body to run on that input for days. Your muscles are active tissues. They need fuel daily. And your nervous system is constantly firing signals it can't function on yesterday's nutrients. That's why consistency beats quantity. A little bit of the right food, at the right time, is more powerful than a once-a-week healthy meal. You already know that your body needs 3 critical nutrients: B12, vitamin D, and magnesium. But what you may not realize is that how you get them, and when, can make the difference between improvement that lasts and frustration that lingers. So let me walk you through what a typical day might look like for someone trying to rebuild leg strength, improve balance, and stop those nighttime cramps without expensive supplements and without guesswork. It starts with breakfast. But not just any breakfast. The first thing you eat in the day determines how your body replenishes nutrients that were depleted overnight. And for older adults, that first meal needs to do 3 things: provide protein, deliver bioavailable B12, and stabilize your energy levels. Many older patients tell me they don't feel hungry in the morning. That's common, especially after age 70, when appetite hormones shift. But skipping breakfast comes at a cost. Without food in the morning, your muscles remain in a catabolic state. That means they continue to break down tissue instead of repairing it. That's why I recommend something light but functional. A boiled egg and a few leaves of steamed spinach. A cup of plain yogurt with a tablespoon of pumpkin seeds. Even a small bowl of cottage cheese with a sliced banana. These meals may sound simple, but they are built around B12, magnesium, and natural protein. They don't just fill your stomach. They send fuel directly to your muscles and nervous system, precisely when they need it most. Right after breakfast is the perfect time to go outside. Not for a walk, just to sit. 10 minutes in soft morning light is often enough to activate vitamin D synthesis through the skin. And it doesn't have to be full sun. Even overcast mornings work. But consistency is key. Your body doesn't store large amounts of vitamin D, especially not as you age. Think of sunlight as a daily dose of balance, not just for your bones, but for your mood, your coordination, your sleep. As the day goes on, lunch is your opportunity to reinforce what breakfast started. Add a palm-sized piece of salmon or sardines to your plate. If you don't eat fish, eggs work just as well. Pair them with cooked greens, like Swiss chard, kale, or even mustard greens, and a drizzle of olive oil to help with nutrient absorption. These foods deliver all 3 key nutrients in their most digestible forms. One thing I often tell patients: avoid frying your eggs or meats at high temperatures. Excessive heat breaks down delicate nutrients like B12 and reduces the bioavailability of others. Boiling, poaching, or steaming is much gentler on the compounds your body needs to retain. And as for dinner? Keep it simple. A portion of lean protein, some lightly sautéed vegetables, and if you suffer from leg cramps at night, a magnesium-rich snack 1 hour before bed. This could be a banana, a spoonful of almond butter, or even a small serving of cooked quinoa or pumpkin seeds. Why at night? Because magnesium works best when your body is at rest. It regulates your muscle tone as you sleep and prevents those sudden, painful contractions that so often strike in the early hours of the morning. You don't need to follow a complicated regimen. You don't need expensive supplements. You need consistency, quality, and patience. Your body doesn't heal through effort alone. It heals when you remove the obstacles holding it back. So here's what I suggest. Start tomorrow. Boil an egg. Open a can of sardines. Steam a cup of spinach. Sit in the sun. Eat a banana before bed. These are not revolutionary ideas. But they work because they give your muscles the ingredients they need to fire properly, relax properly, and support you as you move through your day. And as you do this, day after day, listen to your legs. Notice if you're rising from a chair more easily. If you're walking farther without fatigue. If you're sleeping through the night without cramps. These are signs of progress, not coincidence. I'll leave you with one final thought. Every morning, before you stand up from bed, say this to yourself: today, I support my body. Today, my legs grow stronger. Then follow through with one small action. One meal. One walk outside. One choice that puts you back in control. I'm Dr. Charles, and I thank you for joining me on this journey. If you found this video helpful, please share it with someone who might be struggling. Strength doesn't fade overnight, and it doesn't return that way either. But it does return, step by step, with the right care.